Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Build Computers. Today I'm working on what was probably a pre-built computer at some point. The owner of this computer wants to start playing games on it, however it's got an archaic old graphics card in there, and as you can see it's filthy with dust and all the rest of it. I've already cleaned the cooling fan here. This thing was completely blocked off, and generally it needs a bit of a spruce up. Now the original objective was just a new graphics card, however I took one look at this power supply and said, no mate, we're not putting a new graphics card on this thing. I mean, this thing claims to be 550 watts, but it's horrid. This is probably about £10, this power supply. The thing that has got me concerned is the thickness of the power cables. They're really weedy and horrible. It doesn't actually have a 6-pin power connector. We're using a dual Molex to 6-pin here. Now these things are okay in some instances if you don't have the connectors, but what's got me concerned is that this power supply uses a twin 12-volt rail. Now twin rails used to be all the rage a while back, however people realised they're actually a terrible idea because it means you can't load up one of the chains on the power supply because there's only 14 amps on each rail. So for example, if you've got 14 amps on one rail and you've got a graphics card that's pulling like 100 odd watts on a single chain, then you're going to have a bad time, and the only way around that is to try and connect one of these dual Molexes to two different chains, and then it just gets horrible. I mean, the other thing I noticed as well is that this weedy power supply only actually has a 4-pin connector going into the motherboard, which means the motherboard has got no auxiliary output either. So quite frankly, it's a miracle that it's powering this graphics card properly. So we're going to take these bits out. We're going to replace the power supply and the graphics card, give this whole thing a clean up, and we'll end up with a really nice starter gaming rig here. So I'm going to do some dusting out, but I'm going to take bits out of it first so I'm not wasting my time cleaning up these old things. So let's start stripping. Ooh, 7900 GS, tasty. Haven't seen one of those in a while. Good lord. You could stuff cushions with the dust bunnies in here. Of course it would be. If you're ever building a computer, do me a favour and don't screw in the hard drive on both sides. It's really not necessary, and it just means that I have to take off both panels when I'm taking these things apart. No, that's not coming out from behind the drive. It's not like it's going to fall out with only 2 screws in it. Okay, let's get the airline on this thing. Right, now what is going on with this fan affair here? Oh boy. Who the hell thought that was a good idea? That's properly done, that's not a bodge. Who made this fan? What is this? This is a Nexus. Nexus? What part of you thought that was a good idea? I'm amazed someone hasn't plugged in both of those to power and blown up the motherboard. I'm just going to lop this bit off because, yeah, gross. That's horrid. Time for some fast modifications. There we go, now we have just a normal 3-pin fan. And if you're wondering what these noodly looking things are at the back here, these are rubber fan mounts, which I'm not a fan of, to be honest. They're a pain in the backside to fit, and I don't really think they do much, but since they're here we'll use them. In order to fit them you kind of just have to pull them through, but yeah, they often end up being a bit of a bodge fit like they are here. where they're not really on properly and they don't really hold the fan very well. There we go, there's one. And there's two. Oh, there we go. I thought that was going to snap off when I pulled it. There we go, that's on properly now at least. I would take this out, but the computer needs some kind of exhaust fan really, especially as we're about to put a bigger graphics card in it. Right, this thing... What have we got for options here? Now we have only got one system fan, which is the one it was plugged into, so we'll run it back over there. I'm just going to see if I can find a nicer route for it, just so it's not trailing so much. Joys of working in cheap cases. Okay, right. So the plan now is we put these hard drives right down low in the case so we can put a power cable down the back and tuck all these cables out of sight. However, I need to check how big our graphics card is going to be. It's a GTX 960 we're fitting, so it's going to be fairly compact, but I better check the clearance just in case. Okay, right, here's our Zotac 960. This is the slightly quicker one. They make two 960 2GB editions. One of them is a single blower and the other is the dual blower. This one has got slightly high clock speeds and it's only like another £5 or £10, so it's worth going for this fella. Right, let's see how that fits. That's going to drop in to there-ish. So it's kind of tight, but it's good enough. It would be nice to have it a little bit higher up in the case because there's not going to be much airflow down there. But there's not much I can do about that. Even if this hard drive wasn't there, there would still be not much, there's still only the air getting around the side. Luckily the side panels for this case are vented, I believe. Yep, they are, I've just had a look. So most of the airflow for this graphics card is going to be coming in through the side. Okay, so here comes our power supply. It's a Corsair CX500, which is a budget power supply. However, because Corsair, it's not bad, and despite being the bottom end of the Corsair series, is obviously significantly better than the old one. In fact, if you take a look at the difference in these two fellas, that's the upgrade in power supply that the motherboard is getting to its auxiliary feed. We're going from those two weedy 12-volt rails to 4 nice fat 12-volt lines. So this motherboard is going to be receiving a whole load more power. And a chunk of that is going to be delivered to the graphics card, and then the rest of it is going to be coming out of the proper PCI Express power line. So this thing's going to be getting much better power supply now. There we go. So we've got a shiny new graphics card in there. We've got a shiny new power supply in there that's actually delivering 500 and not maybe 350. And we've got a nice tidy set of cables. So we'll fire this thing up and give it a good service, and this should be a really nice little gaming computer now. Now, as I mentioned at the start of this, the computer itself, obviously, it wants a new case. It's in a cheap, nasty case, although luckily it only bit me once. But the great thing about this is that later on down the line, you could drop all of this into a nice, shiny new case, and you would have something that's indistinguishable from a new gaming rig. And then later on down the line, new processor, new motherboard, you know, ditch the DVD drive, not needed anymore, add in an SSD, infinitely upgradable. So there it is, folks. You can build a gaming computer from an off-the-shelf one. It's just a question of how much you change. You're going to end up spending the same amount of money as a new build, but you can spread it out over time. And as you can see in the meantime, you can have something that's not too shameful. So, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye for now.